Hello there. This has been about the most stressful day I could remember. Had a couple plumbers in the basement. Charged me $320. Didn't fix the issue. Long story. Big fat guy, like way bigger than me. Like, they're snaking the sewer drain. Wonderful. I have so much fun in life. It's all the mundane stuff that keeps me from thinking about the complex things, which I don't know about you, but I don't like that. Debate, and a lot of people think debate is argumentation. It's supposed to be about, not sophistry, which is debate for the sake of debate, like who can win. It's kind of like, a couple of roosters fighting, and, the one that fights the longest ends up, sitting on the fence post and crowing. That's sophistry. People today don't know how to debate. I've been debating specific topics for decades now that I can genuinely say I'm the #1 world's best expert on, and yet people still want to debate it. Now, there are no authorities in debate, so you notice I didn't call myself an authority. Rather the foremost expert on, the context and meaning of anatta within Buddhist doctrine, for example. Specifically, what is the paraphrasable core? Nobody, by the way, understands anything, an arena, something, unless they can give you the paraphrasable core of what it is. And you can take the best so-called Buddhist experts, which, they're into sectarianism. It's a belief system, not originally so. It was, and the paraphrasable core of Buddhism, by the way, you could stick it in a sentence, is a liberation ontology based in wisdom. If you wanted to be a little bit more specific, you could call it an amoral liberation ontology based in apophatic disobjectification. The paraphrasable core in doctrine is suvimutta cittasa nabandham, the thoroughly liberated citta, or which would be nous, or spiritus sanctum, doesn't matter which word you use, means nirvana. Nirvana literally just means unbound, like nisbandhu, from bondage, or nivritti. It also could come, and there's debate whether it comes from nirvritti, which means no more perturbation, the lack of perturbation. If the human being were a pocket watch, it would be no more winding up of the mainspring. The mainspring has been sprung. There's no more winding up, which, of course, when you wind a pocket watch up, it agitates all the little gears that move into motion to tell time, and it's just to perpetually do stuff. And that's what people are like. They enjoy the roller coaster of samsara. Samsara means to go round and round. There's a very, very few people, it's like, I know the roller coaster is fun. There are these people that actually ridden roller coasters for like a month nonstop, but just running nonstop for a month. And I don't know how they do it. I'm like, even after a few hours, you would want to start puking because it's so horrible. So it's just a test in stamina. Something that is fun, quickly loses all fun. Just as an example, it's kind of a near perfect analogy. But when I've debated these things, and it applies to all things that are debated, people will state their beliefs, which of course is almost never fact. Some people could actually have a belief which is extremely close or very near, or could be at the center of the truth, but usually it's not. And they'll tell you what it is, or they'll hear you say something, which is true, demonstrably true. Not only doctrinally, and there's a lot of stuff that's in doctrine, which is absolute nonsense. Someone could quote, book and verse of some sort of religious text. It's like, well, this is doctrinally accurate. I can give you the, the book and verse in Aramaic, and I know how to translate Aramaic, not meaning me. But it's still nonsense. But it has to be transcendent to just doctrine. Of course, when you're actually debating what something teaches, it has to be sola scriptura, meaning essentially in doctrine. It's like, what does it or does it not teach? As famously stated by Dr. Anandakitish Kumaraswamy, Buddhism is most famous today for everything it never taught originally, which is extremely accurate. But people will tell you their belief systems, or they'll hear you say something, like I've written many articles about anatta. And, the subject which is liberated from samsara, and there's 17 proprietary declarations about the citta, for example. But what they do is a drive-by. You know what a drive-by is? Like they have drive-bys in Chicago. Like they drive by and they roll down the window and bang, 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 bang. You know, they just keep going. It's a drive-by. They can't debate. One of the important factors of an intelligent debate is you'll notice that someone will copy-paste the passage or something that they, you know, a sort of dogma or nonsense that they believe in. They'll post it in refutation to you. And 99 times out of 100, there's no basis there. They think it says something when it actually doesn't say that. And they won't stay by. They'll do a drive-by. They can't. The point I'm actually getting to, and I like to cut to the chase, is that if you can't stay and intelligently debate it, you know, to fruition, then you're not interested in the truth. You know subliminally that you don't stand in the truth because you do a drive-by, you know, boom, 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 you know, speed off down the road, you know, analogously. And the people that I can actually stay and debate it, you know, for days, if not weeks, and I've done this many times, are the ones that actually persist. And there are some sophists and people that are so firmly entrenched in, you know, nonsensical beliefs that they'll just keep saying, if they do stick around, what they do is they keep parroting the same thing over and over again. They're not actually making their position. They just keep parroting the same nonsense that they have in their brain as their own silly little belief system. What the problem is that they've paid a lot of money and a lot of time, invested their life in dragon fighting school, as I've used it in an analogy. You know, there are no dragons, but, you know, they've spent time and money and some of their life, could be a lot of their life, you know, learning how to fight dragons. You come by and you say, hey, there's no dragons. Like, what? They don't want to hear that. You know, there's shock, and then there's a denial. A genuine truth seeker, and this is a really important point, I guarantee you were never taught, and you should really pay attention because it's applicable to a lot of stuff. I mean, really pay attention, at least for this one section anyway, is that a genuine truth seeker is happy to be proven right as he is to be proven wrong. Why is that the case? If someone is a genuine truth seeker, they're interested in the truth. Yeah? If they're proven right, they know they're on the right track and they're actually pointing to the right thing. You know, if they're proven wrong through facts, logic, and wisdom, and in the case of whatever it is being debated, it could be sola scriptura and facts, logic, and wisdom. You know, it's like they're proven wrong. That means they're heading off in the wrong direction relative to the truth. But a genuine truth seeker is like, well, you know I was wrong. It's never been brought to my attention what you said, and it makes sense in the facts, logic, and wisdom, and possibly the citation, depending on what is being debated, has now turned me towards the truth. You see what the point is? If you are proven right, you know you're headed in the right direction. It's like, well, everything I said is irrefutable. You know, I've made my case, and the person has not countered my case. They keep parroting the same nonsense, or they've done a drive-by, or say someone has, you know, a little bit of wisdom but not much. They've been headed in the wrong direction. They might be proximal to the truth of whatever is being debated, but they've been turned towards it. So no matter whether you're proven right or proven wrong, you're always directed towards the truth. And this, of course, gets into the via negativa, the apophatism, where you're actually positing the subject through sorry about that. Positing the subject through objective negation. Getting back to Buddhism, for example, you know, the illogical nature, and I've debated this, you know, countless times. I don't actually have to debate all the passages about the soul within doctrine. It's completely unnecessary, although I can do it all day long. In discussing anatta or anatman, of which there's 556 occurrences, like I'll cite any of the 556 occurrences of that term. And it is never used in a pejorative fashion. I'll pose other questions for which they will always hang up in their own brain. It's like they've slipped the gear in their brain. It's very, very easy to debate these people. You don't have to just use doctrine, which I can do better than any of them. It's like, well, let me ask you a question, you know, and then we can sit here and, you know, cite passages endlessly. You know, say, if Buddhism were, and they believe this, if Buddhism were completely logical, like, well, of course it is. And of course, you know, they're sitting from a position of ignorance, but they will still confess, you know, that the teachings are correct. It's like, well, if there were no soul, then there would be some passage that says, you would never say, this is not the soul, that's not the soul. None of these people understand apophaticism or via negativa or negative dialectic or the Indian neti. They would never say, this is not the soul, that's not the soul, this isn't the soul either. You would never ever do that. You would simply say, there's no soul. Is this no? There's no soul. Well, what about no? No, 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 no. There's no soul. Not in any translation does any such passage exist. And then you ask, you don't have to talk about the soul. You could talk about peripheral things which show to them, whether it be conscious or subliminal, that intellectually they're on the wrong path and they're completely ignorant of the topic. I say, well, what is the subject of liberation? Well, nirvana is liberation, but to them it's like cosmic oblivion, like you flushed your soul down a cosmic toilet. Well, that's just nihilism, it's oblivion. What is the transcendent subject that is the core of amatya datya, which is, in translation, means the immortal element? Well, it's in reference to nirvana. Well, nirvana of what, by what, and due to what? Liberation is, of course, by and through wisdom. But what is the subject which has wisdom? Well, can't we, well, no, let's talk about it. If, it can't be the psychophysical, and ultimately they must posit that it is, because there's a passage in Samyutta Nikaya 3.196 that says Maradama, which means the doctrine of Mara, the evil one. And what is it? And it's the five khandhas. Rupa, the Rupa Vedana Sana Sankara Vijnana, the psychophysical. You can't say that the basis of evil and of dukkha, suffering and all the rest of it, is the exact same psychophysical corporeal corpus, which is also to the immortal elements and the basis for nisbandhu, or nibbana in Pali, or in Sanskrit the word is nirvana. It's completely impossible. There's no such passage that exists. And in Samyutta Nikaya 3.194, a passage very close to this, it says, Anatta, Venerable One. What does the word anatta mean? It's just this, Radha. This is how the Theravadins are all those yellow-robed guys running around Southeast Asia, Burma, Laos, Thailand, Sri Lanka. Those yellow-robed guys, yeah? Those guys that you think are Buddhists? Yeah. They translate Maradama. Anatta, what does anatta mean? A form is not the soul, sensations, perceptions, consciousness, rupa anatta, veda anatta, sankhara anatta, vijnana, nama rupa anattati, the psychophysical is not the soul. They translate it, and purposefully mistranslate it, as subject to. They actually believe in pure filth. When you say that the basis for nirvana and the immortal element and all the rest of it is the exact same, putrid, to them there is pure filth. Quite literally, there's purified filth, meaning the psychophysical. Because they cannot admit to, they actually only admit to 7 things, ultimately. Those yellow-robed guys in Southeast Asia. The psychophysical, rupa, vedana, sana, sankhara, vijnana, they admit to avidya, which is agnosis or ignorance, but ignorance of what, by what, and due to what, ignorance is not a thing itself. Ignorance is an attribute of something else, which of course they can't explain. They can't debate anything. If you can't debate it easily, listen to me carefully on this. If you can't debate something easily, then you don't understand it at all. So they admit to 7 things. The 5 khandhas, i.e. the psychophysical, i.e. Namarupa. Namarupa refers, of course, to Rupa, Vedana, Sana, Sankhara, Vijnana, the psychophysical. They admit to avidya, which is agnosis, and they admit to nirvana. It's like, well, what is the element or the subject of nirvana? Well, they don't admit to a transcendent principle or subject. There's a sock puppet but no hand underneath of it. And this is not either logical, it's not wise, and it's certainly not doctrinal. And doctrine is suvimutta chittasanabandham. The thoroughly liberated chitta, or nous, or spirit, means nirvana. Now, bhava-nirodhanabandham, the subjugation of becoming, bhava-nubhava, which means becoming and rebecoming, means, but becoming of what? Ignorance is not a thing. Paticca samuppada, which is very poorly translated as dependent origination, starts out with avidya. Well, avidya or avidya, Sanskrit, or agnosis, or ignorance, not conventional ignorance of an existential being, but transcendent avidya. Well, Ignorance of what, by what. Ignorance is not a thing. There's no such thing as a wave, because a wave is what something does, Happiness is not a thing. Happiness is, I'm happy, you're happy. Ignorance is not a thing at all. Ignorance is an attribute, if this were a living being, it's like, well, this has avidya. It's ignorant. It's rock. I mean, it's not sentient, of course. Unless you're an animist, then you think inanimate matter is sentient. So there's the peripheral debate with these people. It's like, listen, they do a drive-by because unconsciously, not consciously, they know they have no clue about this, but they're just involved. It's just religion. It's just like, I get together with people just like me, and we commune. We all believe in the same nonsense, which it is nonsense. I'm not interested in what people believe. I'm interested in facts, logic, and wisdom. If you can't debate it, then you don't know it. And it's okay to admit, like, I'd like to know more about this. I don't know much. I know some things. I'd like to know if I'm right. A genuine truth seeker is one of the rarest things on this earth. You better listen to me, because if I'm lying, I'm dying. There's nothing more true I've ever said than that. Wisdom is its own reward. When's the last time you heard someone say, wisdom is so important? Wisdom, praise wisdom. You've probably never heard it, maybe once in your life. Maybe, TV never, the idiot box, the TV box, they don't ever talk about wisdom, do they? When's the last time you heard, I never hear it, ever. I know you don't either. Wisdom, by the way, in genuine mystic metaphysics is no different than the self or the soul. If there were no soul, liberation would be both meaningless and completely impossible. The psychophysical is not a basis for liberation. The psychophysical is anicca, dukkha, anatta. Suffering, not the soul, and impermanent. I've had so many, over the decades, I've had thousands, literally thousands and thousands of people come. I thought Buddhism was just this nihilistic, soul-denying oblivionism, which I know that's not a word. Oblivionism, which is just a nonsensical way of referring to nihilism. I just thought there's a new Matrix movie. I bet it's going to suck, too, by the way. And there's a new Matrix movie, which I was just told about a few days ago. I thought Buddhism was oblivionism until I heard, I read your article. It's like, wow, this makes sense. This is logical. You've got the book, verse, and citation for it. All this other stuff I've been reading about it was just commentarial trash. This is why I have no interest in religions, because original Buddhism, by the way, was not original at all. It was just a Neo-Sramanic movement. People think 2,600 years ago was a long time ago. Well, it wasn't. 2,600 years ago, the Vedas and Advaita Vedantic thought, let me repeat that again, Advaita Vedantic thought was already really, really, really old, and it had been completely corrupted, like really corrupted. And all Buddhism was a reestablishment. There's nothing new under the sun. It was just a reestablishment and a simplification of what had always been there way, 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 way earlier. People are like, man, that's a long time ago, 2,600 years ago, at the time of Gautama. It is not. In the timeline of human history, it's just a fart in the wind. It was just a blink of the eye. So it's not original. And that really, by the way, that also really, really pisses Buddhists off. I hate that. What do you mean it's not original? It's totally new stuff. It teaches. No, it's not. If you're well-read in these texts, it's not original at all. There's not a single original thing in original Buddhism. But when I say original Buddhism, what I'm referring to is the original article. Not the Mahayanism, not those yellow robe guys that are running around Sri Lanka, Burma, Ceylon, bless their heart, whatever. That's Theravada. That's not original to Buddhism at all. You can disagree with me all you like, but you'll be wrong. It's like, what do you think about so-and-so? I'm not interested in it. I'm only interested in the original article, Facts, Logic, and Wisdom. So this video is mostly about debate. The point is that they do a drive-by. They're basically admitting they haven't got a clue. If they keep repeating themselves, you'll keep bringing up new material proving that they're wrong, and what they'll do, and I've seen this a million times, they'll keep saying the same thing over and over again. Like, Polly wants a cracker, Polly wants... It's like you keep repeating yourself. You're not making your point. And if you can't say what something is in its paraphrasable core, you don't understand it. If you can't stick around and debate it, and some people just don't have time for debate, I know, but it really hones your skills. It's better than playing chess. A real good debate, and debate is not argumentation, like, rah, 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 rah. That's what people think. What, debate? I don't like the debate. I don't like confrontation. Well, debate is not confrontation. True Platonic dialectic is not rah, 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 rah. It's like people arguing on the street, like, a couple brass New Yorkers, like, barking at each other. Rah, 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 rah. They're debating. No, they're yelling at each other. That's not what a debate is. Americans are really, really unintelligent on the definition of debate. They just don't know what it is. I found the fastest way, and it's not intentional, really have, whether anything, found the fastest way to piss people off is to talk in this tone of voice. It's like, let's discuss this. What you said doesn't make any sense. Can we have a discussion of, oh my God, that makes people so, well, someone will say something. It's just so dumb. I was like, you know what you said doesn't make any sense because boom, 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 boom. Oh man, that makes people so mad. There's so many people out there that are so antithetical to, engaging, the upper functions of their brain. They just have a, it's just like the monkey brain is turned on. The only thing they care about is, money, video games, and rushing home to pop a beer and watch TV or reruns of whatever the hell sort of trash it is that they watch on TV. That's really, and that's the reason for the decline of society too, by the way. That people need to learn how to debate. Kids need to learn how to debate because when you learn how to debate, you develop a sharp mind and you can see through other people's nonsense. It becomes really apparent. It's like, let's have a truth-seeking session here. I spent decades doing this on the topic of anatta. And these people, there's not a one of them that's ever gotten anywhere. And I've debated some of the best. Like, I won't mention that person's name. He does a lot of Pali translations. I see how he fudges the translations, too. There are a lot of things that exist in doctrine, an enormous amount that they just outright refuse exists, like Antarabhava. They think, when a being dies, that it's instantaneous rebirth. Because, here's the philosophical problem, that is a gigantic pile of poo in the mechanics of their belief, is that if a critter or being dies here, and they are transmigrated, you notice I didn't use the word reincarnation. If they're transmigrated over here, and there's a little gap right in between here, then that poses a hardcore philosophical problem for them. Why? Because that means that the psychophysical lump here that takes a poo on itself, there is something other than the psychophysical which exists between this little gap between this living being and this living being. To them, it's like, they keep saying this over and over again. It's like one candle lighting another. It's instantaneous. There's one transference. Now, the word Antarabhava and Pali, they admit to the translation of Antarabhava, which means in between existence. Not genuine existence like the psychophysical, but a disembodied being. Let's just make it really simple. When you admit to a disembodied being, a Antarabhava, that poses serious problems for them. And their best translator says, this passage does exist in Pali, but Theravada does not, I forget his exact words, Abhidhamma, which has nothing to do with Buddhism. It's a bunch of sectarian commentarial stuff. Abhidhamma, meaning Theravada, denies this. We know it's in doctrine, but we completely reject it. They reject it because it poses a serious problem. It doesn't matter if you use the word soul or not. When you admit to in-between existence between this being and this being, then you got a problem. If you're a soul-denying nihilist, for me it's not a problem at all because I'm very logical. I know what the stuff says. I know it backwards and forwards. Been translating ancient Pali now for decades, but it poses a big problem for them. You can't have a being that's dead here and is just hovering around here in time, before they, transmigrate over here. Can't have that problem because that implies an entity which is not psychophysical, which is existing right here. That is a huge secret of all those yellow-robed guys running around Southeast Asia, Laos, Burma, Thailand. Big, big problem. but antarabhava, meaning in between existences. And see, there's a million ways to defeat these people in debate. And it's not I'm interested in defeating them in debate. It's like, you know, you keep saying this stuff. It's not logical, it's not wise, it's not intelligent, and it is not in doctrine. There is nothing that makes any sense in what you're saying because it's utterly illogical and insensible, and it's non-doctrinal. They don't like hearing that. I said, if you can't debate it easily, then you don't understand it. I hope you liked this video. I hope I didn't drone on too long. Thank you so much for watching. Большое вам спасибо. Увидимся, as I say in Russian. Thank you. If you like this video, any donation is warmly welcome. Or you can tell me how much you hated it. Thank you.